Hey, how's it going? I'm Josh from 91 Tech, and today we are doing something kind of fun. So a few months ago, I went ahead and did a video on buying brand new iPhones off of eBay. Basically, we came down to 3 iPhones that we bought. I wanted to buy a brand new sealed iPhone, something older, something that could possibly be on its original iOS version. And 2 came in, and 1 got stolen in transit, or lost in transit, whichever one. It just never showed up. And unfortunately, that was the iPhone 6S, which I had the most confidence in going into this. And that video also did have a thumbnail that produced my favorite meme that has come from my Discord ever. This is brilliant. I love this, and you should go join our Discord. It is awesome, and you can find us at discord.io/91tech. That would be sick. We do still have 2 phones to look at there. This one here is probably going to be the meat of this video. This is one I'm very excited about, and it is a 8GB iPhone 5C. So in theory, it could be running iOS 8, which would be cool. Would have preferred 16 gigs, iOS 7, but that's okay. It also could be running a later version of iOS 7. That's possible because these did start coming out before iOS 8 did. I actually forget how much I paid for this. I did get reimbursed for the 6S, by the way, so that's fine. Okay, with tax, it was $268 US and 74 cents. That's important. I also did have to pay duty taxes. I had to ship this to the US and bring it over the border. And of course, they pulled me over and made me pay an extra, like, what was it, $73 Canadian for taxes, because I also had that iPhone SE and something else that will be in a different video. Maybe you can see it there. We'll see if people figure that one out. I think they will. Doesn't matter for now, but anyways, $268 for an iPhone 5C that's 8GB lime green, factory sealed, cannot be activated. So this has a bad IMEI, meaning that whoever bought this probably never paid for the plan. Luckily, it should still work on Wi-Fi. I'm confident in this one because it's got the orange arrow on the box. The orange arrow, like that plastic, goes around the entire case, but it should also include a charger and earbuds, something Apple doesn't include in their newest iPhone. So hey, but the next one is very much likely a scam, and I may not even put it in the title. I'm not sure yet because it's going to be a scam. And that is this rose gold iPhone SE. Now, from here, it actually looks super duper good. In fact, you should be able to see there's plastic on it. Look at that. It's definitely real. That's why they used a stock photo online and had a whole bunch of them. Not suspicious at all. So this was $180 US, 16GB, and I specifically wanted 16GB as it's more likely to be running iOS 9. In 2017, they switched over to 32 gigs and 128 from 16 and 64. So if you want an iOS 9 model, it's either going to be 16 or 64 gigabytes. But it doesn't matter because there's no way this is brand new because of that. So it's not a good sign when you're supposedly buying brand new. Yeah, this is definitely a scam. Now, it's realistic. The plastic could get torn up and kind of ugly after 6 years of sitting around. But this is not the kind of plastic Apple uses. This is 100% resealed. Now, my guess here is that they stuck a refurbished model in here, and we'll be able to tell if it's running anything newer than iOS 10. Okay, so let's get open this iPhone SE. I'll take off the horrible plastic here. It is very just cheap feeling plastic. Definitely not what Apple would have used. This just feels especially cheap. The box is in nice condition though. And so if we go ahead and lift open the top here, there it is, the iPhone SE, and right away we can see there is something wrong. Apple would never ever allow you to have air bubbles under the plastic cover, and looking at the tab where you would peel it off, you can see that yeah, that looks extremely cheap. It's just not the Apple experience. But if we go ahead and peel it off, we get what is admittedly a very nice condition iPhone SE, and it does turn on immediately. So just looking around it, I don't know if they replaced the shell or not, but it seems to be almost perfect. And so we get to the setup, and right there we see quick start. If you have an iPhone or iPad running iOS 11 or later, bring it nearby. Yeah, this is running a newer version of iOS than it should be. As if there was any doubt, now we know for sure this is definitely not a brand new device. So we will come back to that, but let's go ahead and open up the iPhone 5C, the much more exciting device, quite frankly. So we have the orange little tab that we need to peel off, and as said, it goes all the way around the box, or the plastic container. I don't even know what to call this. This is kind of unique. Apple doesn't do this kind of thing anymore because, well, it's probably not great for the environment, but that aside, I will say I kind of miss this sort of thing. It was really cool. Not a typical phone box. They did this for the old iPod Touches as well. It was unique, and I appreciate that, but getting the plastic sticker off, we're able to lift off the top plastic cover. And I almost dropped the phone, but we didn't. And if we focus, there we we go. The iPhone 5C with its sticker on. If we flip it over, you can see it is absolutely flawless. This is definitely looking like a brand new device so far. We also have the paperwork and the accessories. Everything is checking out. Yeah, Apple has changed a lot in the past decade. As sad as it is, it did take me a sec to figure out how to get this plastic piece off, but there is a little tab at the bottom you need to kind of lift off, and that's just for the sticker. Once we do that, we can see the display, and then we can just go ahead and pop out the iPhone 5C. It's pretty snug in there, and hey, to be fair, it's been in there for probably about 8 years. And pulling it out, we get our brand new, gorgeous iPhone 5C, never before held by anyone else, and it's pristine. We can go ahead and boot this up. Oh wait, no we can't, because it's been sitting for like 8 years and the battery is dead. So it's currently dead. We're gonna charge it up and see if it works, which, I mean, it should, because it's displaying something there. So while we do that, let's look back at the iPhone SE. Setting up the iPhone SE here is pretty darn straightforward and kind of boring, but I don't bother with Touch ID for now, and I don't sign in. Like, getting to the home screen, we can immediately tell we are on iOS 12. Why can we see this? Well, the wallpaper is pretty straightforward, as well as the white music icon, so at least we are a few versions back. And if we go to Settings, General, About, we can see our actual version there being iOS 12.1.3. This would have come out around the January of 2019, meaning that this phone likely hasn't really been used for the better part of 3 years. So there's a lot of questions with this phone. Why is it in such good condition? Did they actually replace the shell? Is it simply just a refurbished device that they threw in a box and sold new? Well, yeah, that is what it is, and there's no way that this came from Apple given it is 16 gigabytes. Again, they haven't sold those since like the first year it was around, so 2019 is out of the question. And as we saw the way it was packaged, it clearly wasn't Apple doing that. Now I have to say, as far as refurbished phones go, this has to be one of, if not the best I've ever seen. It's near flawless. The battery was replaced and it's at 100% health. Touch ID works. I found with cheap refurbished devices, sometimes the LCD panels have a weird blue tinge to them because they're using a cheaper quality than Apple does, but that's not the case here. Everything feels really good, and in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if this was like an official Apple refurbished product, and perhaps they took that, put it in the old box, and said, hey, it's brand new, although that's still pretty darn sketchy regardless, and obviously not the truth. Is this a scam? Well, I would say yes. The listing very specifically called this a brand new device, and it isn't. When you call something new, you generally think it's new. If you're buying a phone on the used market, whether it's apparently brand new and sealed like this one, although I don't see why you would want to buy a phone like this one, be cautious when buying from a seller that's using stock photos. This was a clearly overpriced device. It is in good condition, but $180 for a 16 gig SE is ridiculous. So just be careful is my big thing. But that's probably enough with the iPhone SE for now. There's not a whole lot to say. It's just an iPhone SE on iOS 12. At least it is an SE. I checked the model number and stuff, and we can update to iOS 15 if we wanted to. For a second there, it was feeling a little slow, and I was a little worried maybe it was like a 5S that they stuck in a rose gold shell. That would have been actually hilarious had they done that, but it isn't. Okay, let's go back to the iPhone 5C now that it can boot up. The latest version this phone can run is iOS 10, and that's notable because it's the first version where you hit the home button to unlock instead of swiping. And right away, we already see slide to setup. So if we go through the basic setup stuff here, there's nothing too special. I don't bother signing in yet, and hey, I'll share app analytics. I don't think that'll make much of a difference, but why not? And then, there we go, we get to that beautiful home screen. iOS something. Well, let's go to settings and find out. So if we go to settings, general, about, there it is right there. We are on iOS 8.1. According to ipsw.me, iOS 8.1 was released on the 20th of October 2014, so that means that this phone would have been bought around that time, likely at the end of 2014 or very early 2015, so indeed it is about 8 years old and has never been turned on. It's unfortunately not a 2013 device, but I'll take it, it's still really darn cool. It also is absolutely gorgeous and very, very fast. I was actually very surprised just how fast it was, and I think it's because I'm still used to these things on iOS 10. iOS 10 isn't necessarily slow on the iPhone 5C, but there is definitely lag. But as soon as I got into this, there was nothing. It was speedy, it was instant. Everything I was doing, it not only looked great, but it felt great too. Seeing a device like this in one of its earliest forms does give me a new appreciation for that iOS 7 design. Of course, this is iOS 8, but not a whole lot had changed yet. And with the Retina display it all just really pops. All the colors, it's very bright, very flashy. The control center has that newer iOS 8 look, which I think looks a lot better than the iOS 7 one did. And don't forget that control center was still relatively new. On iOS 6, there was kind of an early form with it with audio controls, but nothing to this extent in terms of usefulness. The music icon is pink, and that is just like what we have today, but if you don't remember, Apple switched over to the white music icon when they came out with Apple Music, and that actually was iOS 8. That was iOS 8.4, I believe, or around there. I was never a huge fan of the white music icon. I have an old 4S still on an old version of iOS 8, and some of you might remember that was a phone I used 4 years ago for a video that permanently traumatized me, where I lived with the 4S for an entire week. Yeah, the amount of requests I've had over the years to redo this challenge or to do a different phone, I just can't do it. I really can't do it. It was painful. But even so, I purposely chose that phone because I really just liked that music icon so much more. I don't know what it is, but for me, it's brighter, it's just more fun. It's a small thing, no doubt, but I don't know, I like it, and I'm glad I have it here on the 5C. It looks great. And of course, that normal home button, the last of its kind. There's no Touch ID. Everything since the 5S besides the 5C has always had Touch ID on the iPhone side, or no home button at all. So that does kind of add to the uniqueness of this phone, although practically speaking, it's not a good thing because if you want any kind of security, you're going to be putting in your passcode extremely frequently. Now, there was one weird issue I was having here, and it wasn't happening at first, which is why I haven't mentioned it yet, but I was talking about how fast this device is, and it was, but I've also been having some weird non-responsive touchscreen issues, where the phone kind of just freezes up and doesn't react to me touching it. Eventually, it just kicks in again and it's fast, so I don't know why this is going on. It could just be an iOS 8.1 bug. Updates past iOS 8.1 claim for better performance and stability. The iPhone 5C at this point would have been one of the newest devices to run iOS 8, so it should be very fast, and for the most part it is. I don't know why exactly I'm experiencing it, but I am going to put it down to software because I can't see it being a problem with the hardware. It just doesn't make sense to me. As far as iOS 8.1 goes, there's not a whole lot we can do. There's not very many apps that you'd be able to find that would still run on this. Now, you can download old compatible versions of things, but we might go ahead and save all that for a future video if that's something you guys are interested in seeing. I wouldn't mind doing a video on kind of the quirks of iOS 8. It's obviously a lot different from what we have today, and I think this video, for what it is, has gone on probably long enough at this point, but it is really fascinating to me just to look around this phone. We always think of, well, you know, things haven't really changed since iOS 7, but they have, just not a lot year to year, so it doesn't feel like a whole lot until you skip a bunch of generations back like this. Okay, so I think we're right about done here. This was a fun one. I enjoyed this video a lot. I know it's been a long time coming. It was a few months, and so I'm sorry for that. With restrictions, it was hard to get across to the States, and then I kind of just procrastinated once I could, and I still am really disappointed about the 6S, so maybe we'll have to give it another shot at some point getting some brand new iPhones, but I'm glad the 5C turned out at least. Obviously, the SE was a complete and utter scam, no surprise there. Do not buy a new sealed iPhone in general, but definitely don't buy one with stock images. Ideally, an individual seller is the way to go because it's just more likely to be legit, and they'll have actual pictures and you can see it, and you can put in the serial number in Apple's website and that'll tell you if it's ever been activated, so if you can see that, you can at least check for sure. So overall though, I think this was at least a lot of fun. I had fun with it, and it was really cool to see old iOS, that's for sure. So we might even take another look at this at some point. We'll see what's going on there. Anyways, yeah, if you found this video interesting or fun, maybe hit that like button and consider subscribing for more content just like this. I'd like to do some more stuff like this. If you want to keep up, you can follow me over on Twitter, Instagram. I even have a TikTok. I actually upload fairly regularly over there. Of course, we have a Discord server. Come by, say hi. Love always talking to you guys. With that all being said, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I'm Josh from 91 Tech, and I will see you all next time.